Welcome to 10 Piece, the podcast where we talk in depth about 10-minute pieces of the Netflix One Piece live-action adaptation. This is the very first episode. Let's set sail.
Along the shore our course prevails, listening to the ocean's tales, in search of treasures and dreams. 10 Piece.
Hello fellow pirates, my name is Desnes aka Desnes the Dwarf on YouTube, and in this podcast we take 10 minutes of the OPLA, the One Piece live-action adaptation from Netflix, and talk about it in great detail with Easter eggs, behind the scenes, actors, filming locations, and all of it as a comparison to the manga and anime. Minor spoiler warning. I will explain all Easter eggs in comparison to the manga, even with minor spoilers for the future of the story, but I will leave out all the big major spoilers. So this podcast is for new fans that just experienced the One Piece live action season 1, and for longtime fans who are reading the manga. The whole podcast is inspired by Cold Mirror's German 5-minute Harry podcast, where she talks about 5 minutes of the first Harry Potter movie in each episode. And she was inspired by Back to the Future Minute by Dueling Genre Productions, where they talk about each minute of the Back to the Future movie. But instead of having 450 episodes for all of season 1 of the One Piece live action, we take 10-minute sections and have about 45 episodes in the end per season. The first episode in the first 10 minutes, Podcast Dawn, starting at the very beginning from the series, until the flashback scene of Luffy, where he talks with Yasopp on Shanks' ship. And as an advice for all podcasts, I would recommend listening to this while doing your chores, driving in your car, whatever you want. In general, if you love the One Piece live action, I would recommend reading the source material, the manga, for free on the official website mangaplus.com. It's available in many languages. For myself, I'm watching One Piece for over 20 years now and reading the new One Piece chapters weekly for over 15 years. And I'm so passionate about the live action from the day it was announced. That's why I do videos about it. Okay, before we even start, we have to talk about the name of the episode, Romance Dawn. Romance can also interpret it as a love for adventure. And it's basically the dawn of the romance adventure story for Monkey D. Luffy. Also, Romance Dawn was the prototype of One Piece before it actually got released. There were 2 versions of the beginning of One Piece that were called Romance Dawn. That's why the first chapter in the manga is also called Romance Dawn. And the word dawn itself is already hinting at something that happens in chapter 1043. So if planned or not, Oda is a genius, happy coincidences. Okay, so the series starts with the Netflix logo, of course. Did you know that Netflix once called Kibble and was founded by Mark Randolph in 1997? That is the same year that One Piece was first released. Isn't that crazy? And nowadays, Netflix causes 15% of all online traffic, with over 220 million paid subscribers worldwide. Sorry, I just love the details here. You can see right from the start that I will put a lot of info in this podcast. Finally, the show begins with the first scene, the camera flying over a map, narrated by none other than Ian McShane, who you might know from Pirates of the Caribbean, where he played Blackbeard, in Kung Fu Panda he voiced Tai Lung, or Game of Thrones for example. On the map you first see the ship of the Roger Pirates, the Oro Jackson. Also you can spot Mumu, the giant sea cow, who is actually not in the live action but was mentioned several times. Mumu originally was brought by Arlong to the East Blue and appears in the Arlong Park arc, of course. I guess they cut him out because of CGI reasons. They already focused enough on the Lord of the Coast with the CGI, and also it makes the East Blue a little bit more grounded, if you don't see the wacky monsters that will appear on the Grand Line later. You can spot a Sea King on the map and various locations, like Boycott Kingdom, where Nami and Nojiko is from, Samba's region, Six's Island, where Ace, a character that will appear in season 2, started his adventure, Shimotsuki Village, where Zoro came from, Kumante Island, where the majority of Buggy's cover story takes place, Dawn Island, where the Windmill Village is located, we will talk about that next episode, Goat Island, where Alvida has her base, Yotsuba Island region, Tequila Wolf, Orange Islands, where Orangetown is, the Island of Rare Animals, where the crew originally meets Gaimon, who doesn't appear in the first season of the live action, but we will talk about him later, Gecko Islands, where Syrup Village is, Usopp's hometown, Mirrorball Island from Django's cover stories, the Konomi Islands, where Kokoyashi Village is, where Nami comes from, and the camera goes closer and closer to Loguetown. But you can even spot the Grand Line on the map, and we see various islands like Alabasta and Jaya. But these topics are for future seasons. And you can spot a ship that is very similar to the one Luffy, Zoro and Nami taking in the end of the episode. While panning into Loguetown, the narrator explains that the world of One Piece has vast seas. And it's no understatement. Most of the One Piece world is just water. But we will talk about the geography of One Piece in great detail later. Geography is everything. Now it switches from the map to a drone flight over Loguetown. The name Loguetown itself refers to the prologue and the epilogue of a story. So it not only started here, it will end here as well. We will talk about that later. Also, while the camera flies over the city, you can clearly see that they filmed this in Sorrento in Campania, Italy. I have to visit this place. It's gorgeous. But sadly, the whole execution place is CGI. While the camera is panning in, you can spot the first pirate flag. A pirate flag in our world and in the One Piece world is called a Jolly Roger. In the real world, there are many explanations why it's called Jolly Roger. One of it is that the word Roger abbreviates from the old word for the devil. And this symbolism would work well, even in One Piece. In Season 1, we only know Gold Roger as the initiative of the Great Pirate Era. But from the manga itself, as a minor spoiler, we know that pirates already existed 900 years ago. So pirates existed in One Piece for a long time. And then he says, this is a world of pirates. This is really what defines One Piece. It has the perfect world building for pirates. But what does a pirate really mean? We will talk about that way later in other episodes. Then we see the scene takes place 22 years ago, and we are hearing Vincent Regan talking about how pirates already are a big problem for the world government. But while we see someone walking in chains, he tells us despite having many pirates, the Marines try to keep everyone safe. And on this day, they made a good catch. They actually captured the pirate Gold Roger. While he's looking over the camera, we see a wanted poster of Gold Roger flying before the camera, which is a great reference to the Oda boxes that Oda usually does in the manga. Every time in the manga somebody new appears or reappears, we see a box where we see the title, the name, and the bounty on them. So this is a perfect way of including this into the live action. And of course, we don't see the bounty of Gold Roger here, but later in the manga, we discover that he has a bounty of 5,564,800,000. That is a great number. And most of the bounties in One Piece even have a meaning behind them, because 648 can also read out as Ro-Shi-Ya and is a play on his name Roger. What the 5-6 means? We will talk about that later. Gold Roger is played by Michael Dorman. You might know him from Daybreakers, Patriot, The Invisible Man, or Triangle. And Garp reveals to us that he's already called the King of the Pirates. What he did to receive this title, we still don't know. 27 years and we still don't know, but we will have the answer in the end. These little mysteries, up until the big mystery, what One Piece is, these are what drives us to read the story and are so passionate about it. And after that, he even claims that he has been captured and his reign is over. So he reigned for all of the pirates? And also, was he really captured? Because while he's going up on the execution platform, he really enjoys this, closing his eyes, bathing in the sun, with a bright smile on his face. Next to him stands Garp, all looking down to the town square of the city where the execution takes place. And we see so many people gathering for this occasion, because they all want to see the execution of the King of the Pirates. And finally, we see Garp in close-up. So once again, Garp is played by Vincent Regan, who you might know from Snow White and the Huntsman, 300, Clash of the Titans, Troy, and he even appears in the newer episodes of House of the Dragon. If I didn't mention it yet, the whole scene that we're watching right now only takes place on one page in the manga, the very first one. And we got like a 5-minute scene in the first saga of the anime. But this scene in the live action not only takes inspiration from the manga and the anime from the first saga, it also includes all the information we have throughout the years, 27 years of One Piece. So originally we don't see Garp next to Gold Roger, but it would make so much sense that he is right there with him, because the two of them have like a rivalry going on that we will talk about later. And of course Garp wouldn't let this opportunity run away to secure this whole event. And he claims his crimes are piracy, thievery, and conspiracy against the world government. What could that mean? We still don't know. But the fun thing is we might have an idea what this means. But piracy itself, just being a free person and sailing on your own, is a crime in the One Piece world. That makes you a pirate. And like in the anime, Roger is asking for taking off his handcuffs because they're starting to itch. And you can clearly see Garp gets very angry that he doesn't take this moment seriously. And he even says to him, I warned you. Like they talked about what will happen. While Garp is continuing his speech and Gold Roger is brought down to his knees, you can clearly see his Jolly Roger on his back, which is a very nice detail that wasn't in the manga or the anime. And then, out of nowhere, a fan favorite character that we sadly don't see in the live action says, Pirate King! Where's your treasure? This character wasn't even in the manga, but was shown in the anime, and the fans call him Ask the Question. And it sounds so silly. Both in the manga and in the anime, it suggested that somebody asked him about his great treasure, the One Piece. And he answers and sets free the great pirate era. So, essentially, Ask the Question is responsible for the whole great pirate era, you know? And this is so funny. Sadly, we don't see him. But we already know that they filmed scenes that we didn't saw in Season 1, because I think they will include it as a flashback in the beginning of Season 2. Because in a few seconds we see a little boy with white hair who is looking like Little Kid Smoker, who will appear in Season 2 in Loguetown. And like in the anime, we might get a flashback from him from the execution that he witnessed. We see many known faces in the crowd, like a young Mihawk, a young Shanks, someone that could represent Mr. Crocodile as a female, a future character for Season 2, but that's just rumors. The crowd asks Gold Roger where he hid it, the One Piece. And the symbolism is real here. We see the sun behind Gold Roger, and then he begins his famous lines. You want to know where my treasure is, while we're seeing the crowd's reaction. I will tell you. Wealth, fame, power. I found everything this world has to offer. And then he says something that doesn't appear in the other iterations. He says, free yourselves. That's a big call to freedom itself. And each pirate is basically a free person that can do whatever he wants, right? So he calls out for piracy. And they should take to the seas. My treasure is yours to find. Everyone in the crowd, everyone in the world could find his treasure. And the crowd goes wild. Garp is totally panicking because he sees how the crowd reacts to it. They are cheering. He gives the signal to execute Gold Roger. He dies. He groans. The crowd gasps. And the people are going wild. They start to running away, running to their ships, sailing for the Grand Line. Then we see a woman running away from the execution platform, and she has a criminal logo on her shirt. Criminal is an actual clothing brand that appears within One Piece. Also, you can spot a young Buggy in the crowd. Sadly, we don't see his nose. And there he is, the shocked Kid Smoker, doesn't realize what he witnesses. And with his last breath, Gold Roger, with the sun behind him, is just laughing. This is great symbolism. And then the narrator, who is actually voiced by the same voice actor as Roger in each of the anime languages, he says that with his words, he started the great pirate era. And everybody got off a race across the seas to find the pirate's hidden treasure. With the music in the background perfectly aligning to the little jingle that we hear so much in the series. And the title saying, One Piece. As you might notice, every episode has its own One Piece logo based on the characters in the episode. And the first one is the official logo of the series with the straw hat resembling Luffy. Also in the middle of the logo, you can always spot in Japanese the words One Piece. That's how the Japanese pronounce One Piece. And if you look very close to the skull in the logo, you can spot a 3D figure of Monkey D. Luffy in there, the manga version. So a question to think about, what do you think is the One Piece? We still don't know. Also, before we skip to the next scene, a great shout out to Sonia Belosova and Giona Ostinelli for making this amazing score for the live action. They had to make new music for the live action because Japanese trademarks are very specific and it would be horrible to get all of the songs for the One Piece live action. So they just toned it down to 1 or 2 songs from the actual anime to get into the One Piece live action and made new songs so they can be different from the other mediums. But this really shows the difference between the different mediums. Because in the anime, you learn the whole promise of Gold Roger making the speech in the first opening. In every episode you watch from the first season. Because they assume you don't see the anime series from the beginning or have one day where you leave out some episodes. So in the anime they included the whole speech from Gold Roger in every episode in the opening. Because you usually watch a few episodes when they appear on TV. Or start from somewhere in the middle of it. But for a different medium, like the manga, you would always begin with the first volume, with the first chapter. So, like in the manga, you see the send-off for the whole story in the very beginning. And the camera cuts from the sky back down on the open seas, and you see a little ship in the water. And now we hear Iñaki Godoy for the very first time, our protagonist, Monkey D. Luffy. He's the best actor for this role. I had the big opportunity this year to interview him because he reached out to me after seeing my videos and I was so overwhelmed by his honesty, generosity, optimism and the joy that he radiates. He's such a great person. Now we see the boat is in the East Blue Sea, present day. And he already mentions Shanks. And we finally see him in close-up, smiling bright, with his scar under his eye, the iconic straw hat. And this is the first time we see his shoes. Yes, Luffy in the live action actually wears shoes. Many complained about that as well, but have you ever seen or heard someone running in slippers or sandals? We called it the sandal scandal. And yeah, unnecessary hate. But we learn later that these are very lookalike of the same shoes that Shanks wear. So they made it a more emotional connection to Shanks. Oh, I just realized Shanks wears sandals as well. Same meaning. Luffy tells us right from the start he can't swim, which is very bad for pirates. And this is a great disadvantage for people with devil fruits, because all of devil fruit users can't swim anymore. Well, they can try to swim, but they feel weak and sink to the ground of the sea. But we will elaborate on that more later. Also, we see the barrel very clear, and the label on the barrel referencing Yoru, the local fishmonger from Windmill Village. He appears in the first chapter of the manga as well, and funny thing, after Luffy ate his devil fruit, the next page he runs to them and tries to get fish. Which could be a hint to the big fish Luffy fights about 1000 chapters later. And for the first time, Luffy declares his dream. He wants to find the One Piece and become the king of the pirates. The really funny thing is, during the whole story, we realize that Luffy tries to become the pirate king because he wants to achieve a specific dream. And this dream, we still don't know what it is. Another funny mystery. So yeah, he wants to find the One Piece to become king of the pirates, but he wants to be king of the pirates because of, and this one we don't know. And this scene is 1-to-1 from chapter 2 of the manga, where he holds his hands and stands there like a big cross, declaring his dream. And then he says he just needs a loyal crew, and about 10 men should do it. Well, 10 men and a bird, he says. He told this the whole time to the news crew that is on his ship, watching him trying to get water out of his ship. News crews are medium-sized gulls that deliver the newspaper and within them the wanted posters around the One Piece world. They have these little hats and carry bags on their shoulders. So this is the One Piece world's equivalent to the usual newspaper in our world. Because the seagulls can fly to every place and just deliver the news. And in this shot we can even spot an amazing Easter egg because the newspaper reads, "War continues on Broccoli Island." And this is a little piece of information that R2 Library of Ohara provided on the timeline on his website many years ago. And they took this detail from a fan to the live action as an Easter egg. Very amazing. So talking about what Luffy actually says, he wants to recruit 10 members and a bird. Right now in the manga, Luffy has 9 members in his crew. But there is a Straw Hat that appears in season 2 of the live action that the longtime readers should know that could count as the 10th. And she even has a bird. So that would make 10 members and a bird. And Luffy right out asks the news crew, do you want to be on my crew? This is a long-lasting running gag in One Piece. Because when Luffy meets new cool characters, he always tries to recruit them for his crew. And there's even a list with all the Straw Hat members if everyone would have said yes. And it's a big list. And right after Luffy says mutiny because the bird flies off, more and more water coming into his boat. And he quickly has to decide how to survive a sinking ship because he can't swim. So he jumps right into a barrel. And the barrel is a big reference how One Piece even came into life. Because as a kid, Eiichiro Oda, the mangaka, author of the series, really loved to watch Vicky the Viking on Japanese TV. It's an old anime that is produced in Japan and was published in Germany in Japan because of a collaboration with a German TV company. And in the series, we have a little Viking who always wants to sail with his father because they seem to have so much fun on their journeys and have a lot to tell after they come back. So Vicky always wants to sail with his father. But unlike Luffy, he's a little bit smarter. He actually jumps into a barrel on his father's ship to get on the ship. And they only realize it when they shipped off. So this whole barrel thing, Luffy could have done this as well from the start, but Oda wanted to make his story a little bit different, and Luffy setting out to the sea himself. But more on that later. And right here, he quickly decides, okay, this is a great idea, I jump into this barrel. This is a point where you see that Luffy is intelligent, but not wise. Because wisdom and intelligence are two different things. Ask a D&D player, he will know why. And Luffy is really creative with coming up with solutions. He isn't that clever with most things, but when it comes to creativity and emotional intelligence, Luffy is on point. And he says, oh man, it's my first day. His journey actually begins in the manga in his hometown, where he sails off in the same boat and even says goodbye to all the villagers that he left behind. Maybe we see the scene even in season 2 as a little flashback, because there's something missing here as well, but we will have plenty to talk about that later. And just 5 seconds in the barrel, he already falls asleep and snores. Classic Luffy. Oh, the sun placement here is great as well. Then we hear cannon fire. A pink pirate ship attacks a passenger ship. This is actually how the anime began the whole story in episode 1. In the first episode of One Piece in the anime, we see Nami on a passenger ship while the ship is being attacked by Captain Alvida. And we didn't see this in the live action, but Alvida in the anime used the trick of sailing behind an island, and when a sailor ship comes very close, they sail away from the island right to the passenger ship. So they're hiding behind the island essentially. This is a detail that isn't even in manga. And now we fully see the ship of the Alvida pirates, the Miss Love Duck, with a big pink duck as a figurehead, and the Alvida pirate flag. They use pink cannonballs with hearts on it. How cute is that? And while they're shooting the cannonballs, you see glass that looks like glitter exploding out of the cannons and the cannonballs. It's very cute and clever to put glass in it as well. This is a detail that wasn't in the manga or in the anime, but it fits for Alvida. And now we finally see Alvida looking into a mirror, turning, then we see her wanted poster saying 5 million berries. Oh yeah, by the way, berries is the currency in One Piece. The numbers are so high in berries because you must think of it in Japanese yen, because 100 US dollars are like 15,000 yen in Japan. So if we would take berries as yen, she would have a bounty round about $20,500. If you ever ask why the numbers are so high in berries. And we see her swinging her mace, yelling for them to raid the ship. Like in classic pirate stories, they're swinging from their ship to the other. And this isn't really historical accurate. Did you know that? They usually took wood beneath the ships to walk over to them or getting closer to jump onto the other ship. But what is really historically accurate is that pirates always wanted to be looking dangerous and looking badass. Because that would frighten the enemy and they would surrender without a fight. That would be the best case for pirates. And we already see how badass Alvida fights with her iron mace in the same shape of her figurehead, slaying down some enemies. And then in the next scene we see that the barrel where Luffy's in get dragged onto Alvida's ship. And this is the big difference. In the manga, Kobe and Luffy meet on an island where Alvida's base is. In the anime, Kobe and Luffy meet on the passenger ship. And in the live action, they meet on Alvida's ship. Then we learn from Alvida that she knows on their ship was Roronoa, the pirate hunter, and she's in search of him. Also, very neat, we see much more of her crew in the background, and we can clearly see Hepoko, Pepoko, and Popoko that are 3 members of her crew, clearly in the background in this scene and later. So the sailor says that he wanted to go to Six's Island, and everybody who read the spin-off with Ace knows that the Six's Island is not a place that you want to be on, because it's a deserted island and it's very hard to get off of it. So, typical for Zoro, he always goes the wrong directions and gets lost in the process. Also, while we talk about Alvida, her actress Ilia Isolaris Paulino played the role. You may know her from Me Time, Family Switch or Queen Pins. And I was really worried in the beginning because, minor spoiler here, we know that Alvida would reappear in Season 2. But in Season 2 she already ate a devil fruit that changes her appearance, which makes her way more sporty and slim. And first I thought they might change the actress, but since she filmed for Season 2, she lost so much weight. She did so much fitness, so she completely got into the role and changed her body for playing Alvida in Season 2. I'm a big fan of this. Look her up on social media, she looks great. She will be great in Season 2. And now it's the first time we see Morgan Davies, the actor for Kobe. And Kobe is one of the characters that really looks 1-to-1 out of the manga. It's so crazy. That's the favorite thing my girlfriend always says about the live action, that the characters like Kobe look exactly like in the manga and anime. And you're already getting this feeling in the scene that he's very afraid of Alvida. And while the sailor couldn't tell her more about Roronoa, she smashes her iron mace on his head. Not visibly seen, but brutally nonetheless. So this sets off the tone of the One Piece live action right from the start. I love that we go a more mature route, because in One Piece there's much violence, and seeing that in real life could be a little bit more violent than in the manga. So it would make sense if they go all in mature, you know what I mean? Alvida is calling for Kobe. Kobe, of course, cleans. That's what he does in the manga and the anime as well. They didn't say this in the live action, but Kobe was actually going fishing and then was captured by the Alvida pirates. But we don't know anything of Kobe's past yet. I'm guessing he's an orphan because he never states he wants to go back to his parents or something. And it isn't unusual for kids to be alone in the One Piece world. We might get into that in future seasons. But he definitely has a feeling that pirates are bad. He has encountered pirates before. After we see the ship in the evening, we see Kobe cleaning Alvida's mace with a toothbrush. I loved this so much. I laughed out loud when I saw this. Because the One Piece world itself is kind of a mix of new and old, and a mix of different design choices. Like, you can find new clothes styles like caps and such in One Piece. But you also can find very old looking clothes or very old looking houses, mechanisms. But you also find new stuff and advanced technology as well. So it's a mix of everything essentially. And we have some confirmation that toothbrushes exist in the One Piece world. But this is the first toothbrush that is in your face in the One Piece world, and I really love this so much. It gives the normal reader to think about, okay, what time period is this set in? And I really love this, because One Piece is in his own world, without any relation to our world. Oda can do whatever he wants with it, and that's fine. Now we hear suspenseful music, and Kobe's wondering where the sound comes from. Seeing the barrel, he's very frightened. And the act is really great to capture the feeling of Kobe very afraid of everything. I love this. Luffy's jumping out of the barrel. Kobe screams. Luffy covers his mouth and says, "Hey, calm down." The first thing Kobe says, "Don't kill me." And of course the first thing that Luffy has in his mind is, food. I need something to eat. And Kobe says that Alvida doesn't let him eat until she finishes her meal, showing how torturing it is being in Alvida's crew. Luffy's happy that he's on a pirate ship because he loved pirates, and all the pirates he experienced in his past were all friendly, mostly. So he loves pirates, but we will talk about this view about pirates later, I guess. After Kobe says, "You don't look like a pirate," and Luffy replying with, "What do they look like?" It's a play on us. It sets up that pirate is a complete different word in the One Piece world. And when someone says pirate in our world, he usually means that pirate with one leg, parrot, and an eye patch. But this is not One Piece. There's not a single pirate with an eye patch in One Piece, even though we have so many characters. But Oda already said that if we see a pirate with an eye patch, and this will be a special occasion, we know that the ending of One Piece is very close. And he hasn't appeared yet. Then we transition to his first flashback. And even the last minute that we're covering. We're coming a long way, right? And we have so much more to talk about. I love this so much, guys. The flashback scene begins with water dropping on cold Nosorio's face, Kid Luffy's actor. I really love how he played the role. You might know him from Cha-Cha Real Smooth, New Amsterdam, or he even appeared in 2 Law & Order episodes. But again, I had this opportunity to interview him, and he reminded me so much of Iñaki. It was crazy. He loved video games, he loved football, or soccer in that sense. I loved his enthusiasm. And for him, this was a great role to start with. So he wakes up in this little cabin at the dock of Windmill Village. Luffy claimed this his place for the time he's been there. He doesn't live his whole childhood there. We will see this way later. He has a little board where he crosses out the days until Shanks will arrive in Windmill Village again. And I really love this addition. This wasn't in the anime and manga, but it really shows how Luffy is really passionate of seeing Shanks and hearing stories from him. So he jumps out of his hideout to see Shanks' ship, the Red Force, and we see in text that we're at Windmill Village 10 years ago. So Luffy is just 7 years old in this flashback. We see a close-up on Shanks' ship and seeing Yasop and another crewmate coming out of the ship. Yasop, if you didn't notice that, is the father of Usopp that Luffy later meets. Then we see Ben Beckman, Lucky Roo, holding a piece of meat and carrying a little treasure chest that Shanks actually grabs before it falls. But we will talk about this treasure chest later. And Shanks points out that it's worth more than the rest of the loot. And this is the first time we see Shanks, played by Peter Gedio. You might know him from Queen of the South, Matador, Supergirl, or Yellow Jackets. Luffy is hiding behind ropes to see what the crew is doing and then tries to help them getting the loot off of the ship. Shanks sees him and says he wonders when he would show up. And our podcast episode ends with the last seconds where Yasop strokes through Luffy's shaggy hair. And that was everything. I can't tell you how happy I am to finally getting into this project. This was planned for over a year ago. I just wanted to get into the nitty-gritty details of the One Piece live action because I love it so much. And this is the perfect form to talk about every little detail, everything that I love about One Piece in one thing. And I hope you enjoyed it as much as I do. If you have any questions about the podcast, if I missed anything that you catched, please write me. If you listen to the whole episode, rate this podcast and give it 5 stars. Thank you very much. I'm beyond excited for future episodes and right on brand, we will have a new podcast episode every 10 days. Thank you guys for listening and let's set sail.